Paul IV. He was Pope from 1555 until 1559, which is exactly the time the Council of Trent, direly needed after the Reformation, was interrupted. Paul IV, Neapolitano again, from Naples, he was on one hand the pious figure, we know that, from somewhere else. On the other hand, he was extremely arrogant. He was absolutely, totally insane about his own papal dignity, and he was a certifiable medical case of paranoia. Very hard character. For him, it was enough to be suspect of heresy, and he would be arrested. Even though he appointed his nephew, Carafa, to Secretary of State, his nephew betrayed him wherever he could, amassed a fortune while he was in that job. But you couldn't speak to Paul IV about it. He wouldn't have it, he wasn't going to listen to you, he would not even receive you. The next pope in history who wouldn't receive cardinals was Pius XII. It was rare, very rare, that a pope would refuse to receive his own cardinals. He had, for example, one poor Cardinal Morone was called into the papal's audience. He never saw the Pope. He was arrested, locked up, never found out why he was suspected of heresy. The same Paul IV was also the one who issued the papal bull, Cum ex apostolatus officio, that determined that a former heretic could not become Pope. What I really should, for practical purposes, not passing any judgment on anyone here, but for practical purposes, I should say the 1958 Sedevacantists. Those who believed that John XXIII was not Pope, because before he was elected, he was a heretic. Now, the 1958 Sedevacantists do not realize that the papal bull, Cum ex apostolatus officio, was a document that was basically null and void. It wasn't dogmatic at all, as they say. The next pope who wrote about the laws of how to elect the pope didn't even mention Cum ex apostolatus officio. And the papal practice was even worse. While Paul IV in Cum ex apostolatus officio says a former heretic cannot become pope, privately he made sure that every cardinal understood that one who was formally suspect of heresy could not become pope. Now, Leo XIII beautifully contradicted that when he made the former heretic, John Henry Newman, Cardinal John Henry Newman. So, Leo XIII, theoretically, made a former heretic, John Henry Newman, Anglican minister, who converted Catholic, became a Catholic priest. Leo XIII made him John Henry Cardinal Newman. Therefore, he was eligible to the papacy. Out goes Cum ex apostolatus officio, written by a paranoid pope anyway. Paul IV was also an excellent example of why Christ decided in the 17th century, actually in the 680s, to reveal his most sacred heart to Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque, and why he told the French king to consecrate France to the Sacred Heart, which the French king, of course, did not do, because, of course, the Jesuit counseled him not to do so. And, of course, on the same day, 100 years later, the French Revolution started. The French Revolution didn't start on July 14th, as the French would like to have it. It started on, if I remember well, June in any case, but if I remember well, on June 17th, when the states, the different states of society, a sort of parliament, were dissolved. That's when the French Revolution started. And that was on the day, 100 years after Louis XIV did not consecrate France to the Sacred Heart. Why the Sacred Heart? Well, the heart stands for love. Do you say I love you with all of my will? No. Do you say I love you with all of my intellect? No. You say I love you with all of my heart. This is exactly what popes like Paul IV so direly lacked. Now, whatever you hear about the Inquisition is usually written up by Protestant English, and there is a whole bunch of lies in it and slander. It's what I call mass production of lie and slander. But the Roman Inquisition, which was a basically charitable institution, believe it or not, under Paul IV was anything but charitable. It was very easy in those days for Roman families to get rid of enemies. All they would have to do is make sure the Pope heard that Cardinal so-and-so of the enemy family had pronounced heresy. That made him suspect of heresy, so he would arrest it. As the above-mentioned Cardinal Morone said, he was told he was arrested because he was suspect of heresy. He said, well, what? He never found out. He was in prison, luxurious prison in Castel San Angelo, but still in prison. He was in prison until finally, for a couple of years later, Paul IV died, and the cardinals unanimously decided to have poor Cardinal Morone participate in the next conclave, because they were all convinced this was unjust. Now, it doesn't befit the Pope to arrest people and not even tell them why. The Pope is subject to canon law. There is some papalists running around who say the Pope is above canon law. No, he is not. He may change canon law, but he's not above it. The Pope is a vice president in the Church, not the president. That's Christ. The Pope is the vicar. Some people don't know what the word vicar means. Well, vicar is vice president.